Good afternoon. This is Thursday again, and welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. The name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. In lieu of the recent air strikes against the Islamic known as ISIS, the Islamic radicals known as ISIS, I actually refuse to admire or praise this present administration for what's gone on. Apparently, of late, they have boasted about these airstrikes. Now, with my understanding, this past airstrike was very successful in that there were several hundred vehicles destroyed as well as casualties among ISIS. But I, as I said, I've refused to praise that. There's been so many attacks against this country to no avail, actually. In fact, I have some startling statistics. There have been 9,000 air attacks, military air attacks against ISIS since this campaign began back in, I think it was 2014. That's 9,000. And what's more startling to me is the cost to the American public. 9,000 air attacks within the past 2 years, not even quite 2 years, actually, to be. And the cost to the American public for these airstrikes is a staggering $11 million per day. Let me repeat that, $11 million per day. Now, I'd ask you to do the math, but I'll do it for you. In less than 2 years, the taxpayers have paid $5.5 billion. And yet, these Islamic idiots continue to destroy, to attack not only this country but other nations. So I'm wondering, and you're probably wondering, what's next? Well, what do we do about this? Well, I think the first thing we have to do, and the most important thing we have to do, is to replace the present administration with an administration that is vibrant, that will stand up to these people. I think the Trump administration will do that. We need an administration that puts the American people, places the American people first and foremost in this country. Administration that will stand up to these people. Now, of late, we haven't seen that. We've heard a lot of talk, a lot of rhetoric, but none of it has come true. And I think we need an administration that will issue a final statement to these people. And that being that we're not coming. America is coming. I mean, let me just say this. Remember Saddam Hussein? Remember that old boy bin Laden? Well, America's coming, and we're not coming to detain you. We're not coming to incarcerate you, We will not accept at all your retreat, nor will we accept your surrender. I have a great show today. I have a gentleman named Mike Carson, and I'm going to bring him on right now and let him introduce himself. Mike? Mark, excuse me. Scoot in a little bit.
All right.
Okay.
Mike's my brother.
Okay. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself. What you do.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Carson. My company's name is RMC Enterprises, Inc.
I've heard of that company.
Yeah, we're a general building contractor located here in Fresno, California.
Okay. How long have you been in business?
We've been in business since 1985.
I see.
Yes.
Incredible.
Serving California from the lighthouse at Monterey for the Pacific Grove to Death Valley, work in Death Valley to Northern California and Southern California. But we cover California with our various projects.
Well, you do major projects, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us about some of the projects that you've done in the past?
Sure. We've been blessed to have successfully completed some special projects or specialty projects from historical preservation projects in Yosemite National Park of painting and preservation work to the Valley Chapel, the Valley Museum, Scotty's Castle in Death Valley.
Oh my, you have quite a resume.
We have worked for the Coast Guard, doing work for the lighthouse at the homes at renovating the homes at Pacific Grove.
Beautiful place, huh?
Yeah, been, like I said, been fortunate. One of our customers has been. We recently relocated the monument, the old monument at Fresno State there, off of the corner of Shaw and Cedar, a very historical monument.
Oh, I
and
see. You did that?
we removed that and relocated it into the Rose Garden in at Fresno State.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yes. Yeah. So it was.
But you don't do small projects like homes or such. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, it would have to be probably a major project, right?
Well, it would be we do commercial, we primarily do commercial construction and renovations and specialty projects. We don't do a lot of residential work, but we don't want to turn down anything. We'll be willing to entertain that, but we're more specialized construction and renovations. But if you have a need, we're able to provide that. We'll do turnkey work. We have design capability, architectural engineering firms that we work with that we're able to design and engineer, and from the concept all the way to the completion or the actual fulfillment of the project and completion of a project. One of our, we've done the work at, like I said, Fresno State. We constructed the Smith Camp Honors College there. We've recently completed work for the city of Modesto. We renovated their transit center, and so those are some of the various projects, and a lot of it has been upgrading facilities and building out existing shells and what have you. But commercial construction is what we kind of hang our hat on, and that's one of our specialties that we prefer to do.
Are you currently doing something in the Fresno area?
Yes, actually, we're working for the state college system. We're doing some maintenance or renovation work and maintenance work for them, and Kalinga, for the Kalinga campus, Fireball, and then also we are building out a ticket office in Dinuba for the transit center there.
Oh, wow.
And then also we have projects. We do a lot of work for the state of California Highway Patrol Division. We're doing work, and they built a new station, a way station in Mountain Pass, which is about 5 miles from Primm, Nevada.
I was just about to ask you where that was.
Yeah, 5 miles from Primm. It's on your way to Las Vegas on I-15. There's a brand new California Highway Patrol way station there that has been built, and we've been doing just some fill work for them, just special work that they would need to get the building into operation there.
So I imagine, it sounds like you're so established that I imagine that most of your work comes from word of mouth, huh? Because you seem to be quite established.
That as well. With the internet, and most of it is repeat business. Though we really don't have to do a lot of looking or bidding, but we're sought in the Fresno area. I've been told we're one of the best kept secrets around here.
Oh, that's good. It sounds
Yeah.
like a great kept secret.
Well, we're really grateful to be able to have performed or opportunity to work on various types of projects, and that have taken us from. We recently completed work down at the Marine Corps base at down by the Marine Corps base at Camp Pendleton, which is San
Riverside,
Onofre.
isn't it?
Yeah, San Onofre, Orange
Yes.
County. We did, and we know several years ago, or a few years ago, we did renovated all the chapels on the base one year. Yeah, so, and recently we've did the Naval Air Station Lemoore. They've upgraded their pilot's swimming pool, dunk tank training pool. So we were involved with that too, as a subcontractor, and especially coatings and things of that nature. But yeah, but we walked on a lot of different places, like I said, from the coast to the mountains and to Southern California, Northern California. But we get around.
Sounds great. Well, let me ask you, I know prior to the show you said that I think you've been in business since 1985?
Yes, sir.
How did you start? What made you decide to do this? I'm very curious.
Well, my father, he was a building contractor from Indiana originally, and I grew up under his, learning the trade through him and from him. And but how I ended up here in Fresno, I was in the Navy. I'm a Navy veteran. I was in the Air Wing down at Naval Air Station Lemoore is how I came to this area, and left and came back and started a family, raised my family, and roots grew, and this is where I've hung my hat. So,
well, that's wonderful. How large is your family? You have a little.
Well, I come from a larger family, but I have I'm raising the second set now, and that's my three. I have 3 children, but I have 3 grandchildren also, 3 girls, and so I'm really they're the biggest part of my life, and I really enjoy spending time with them.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Outstanding. Well, we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk to you some more. I'll talk a little bit about some other things later.
Okay.
And
very
feel
good.
free.
Very
we're going to
good.
go to a commercial now, and we'll be back in 2 and 2. I'm back with my guest, Mark. Before I continue, I would like to remind everybody that if you're watching the show, it's live right now. However, if you see it, say, in a day or so, don't call in because it won't be live. You know, I've always referred to the GOP as the program of Lincoln, Reagan, and Trump. And so what I'd like to do at this moment is go to a past video with Ronald Reagan.
Today marks my first State of the Union address to you, a constitutional duty as old as our republic itself. President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government and the preservation of the sacred fire of liberty is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that. I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience. Although I've been around for a while, I can remember when a hot story broke and the reporters would run in yelling, "Stop the chisels." But I am aware of my age. When I go in for a physical now, they no longer ask me how old I am. They just carbon date me. The story was an American and a Russian arguing about their two countries. And the American said, "Look, in my country, I can walk into the Oval Office, I can pound the president's desk and say, 'Mr. President, I don't like the way you're running our country.'" And the Russian said, "I can do that." The American said, "You can?" He says, "Yes. I can go into the Kremlin to the General Secretary's office, pound his desk and say, 'Mr. General Secretary, I don't like the way President Reagan's running his country.'" Less than 1 family out of 7 in the Soviet Union owns an automobile. Most of the automobiles are driven by the bureaucrats. The government furnishes them and drivers and so forth. So an order went out one day to the police that anyone caught speeding, anyone, no matter who, gets a ticket. Well, Gorbachev came out of his country home, his dacha. He was late getting to the Kremlin. There was his limousine and driver waiting. He told the driver to get in the back seat, he'd drive, and down the road he went. They passed two motorcycle cops. One took out after him. And pretty soon he's back with his buddy, and his buddy says, well, did you give him a ticket? And he said, no. Well, he said, why not? Oh, he said, that's too important. Well, he said, we're told to give anybody a ticket, no matter who it is. Oh, he said, no, this one was too, I could. Well, he said, who was it? He said, I couldn't recognize him. But his driver was Gorbachev. About three dogs, an American dog and a Polish dog and a Russian dog. They were all having a visit, and the American dog was telling them about how things were in this country. He said, you know, you bark and you bark long enough, and then somebody comes along and gives you some meat. And the Polish dog said, what's meat? The Russian dog says, what's bark? This one has to do with the fact that in the Soviet Union, if you want to buy an automobile, there is a 10-year wait. And you go through quite a process when you're ready to buy, and then you put up the money in advance. So there was a young fellow there that had finally made it, and he was going through all the bureaus and agencies that he had to go through and signing all the papers, and finally got to that last agency where they put the stamp on it. And the man then that had made the final stamp of the paper, taking the money, said, all right, come back in 10 years and get delivery of your car. And he said, morning or afternoon? And the fella said, well, 10 years from now, what difference does it make? He said, the plumber's coming in the morning. But I remember the story of a fellow who was running for office as a Republican, and he was in a rural area and it wasn't known to be Republican, and he stopped by a farm to do some campaigning. And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped, and he said, wait right here till I go get Ma. She's never seen a Republican before. So he got her, and the candidate looked around for a podium from which to give his speech, and the only thing he could find was a pile of that stuff that Bess Truman took 35 years trying to get Harry to call fertilizer. So he got up on the mound, and when they came back, he gave his speech. And at the end of it, the farmer said, that's the first time I ever heard a Republican speech. And the candidate said, that's the first time I've ever given a Republican speech from a Democratic platform. One of the great things about having you here is that I get to tell a farm joke. Now, first I need a setting, but Rick, you're from Kansas, right?
You bet.
Okay, this takes place in Kansas. There was an old Kansas farmer there. He had a piece of creek bottom land that had never been developed at all. It was all rocks and brush and all messed up, and he started in on it, clearing it, the underbrush, and hauling away the rocks, then cultivating the soil there, and he planted a garden, everything from vegetables on to corn, and it really became a garden spot, and he was pretty proud of what he'd done. So one Sunday morning in church after the service, he asked the preacher if he wouldn't stop by to have a look. Well, the preacher arrived, and he took one look, and he said, oh, this is wonderful. He said, these are the biggest tomatoes I've ever seen. Praise the Lord. He said, those green beans, that squash, those melons, he said, the Lord really has blessed this place. And look at the height of that corn. He said, the God has really been good. And the old boy was listening to all this, and he was getting more and more fidgety, and finally he blurted out, Reverend, I wish you could have seen it when the Lord was doing it by himself.
Back now with my guest, Mark. I wanted you to see that because a little bit we're going to compare that with a new Donald Trump video. I love calling this the GOP party, the party of Lincoln, Reagan, and now Trump. Now, also, I want you to know that if you feel like calling in, the number will appear on the bottom of the screen there. Call in, talk to Mark or talk to me. So, Mark, we're back with you. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your business? Mike could maybe promote yourself there a little bit.
Well, We are a veteran enterprise doing business in the state of California that no project really is too big or too small. Primarily, our focus is on the commercial side of construction, though. We welcome if you have a special project that you'd like to that you would have or considering or need to get estimates for. We'd be more than happy to provide you with estimates to be able to promote or apply our company to or compare with. So we invite you to give us a call if you care to. We have our office is located right here in Central California, and your project may be your coastal home or your coastal property or your mountain property or.
Well, now, I know that your number is going to appear there on the screen, but
Okay.
why don't you give us your address and your phone number
All
in the
right.
event that these people might, I'm sure there's someone that could use your services.
Right, sure. Once again, my company name is RMC Enterprises. Our address is 4974 North Fresno Street here in Fresno. Our phone number is 559-227-0543. And our office hours are from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So if you feel free to give us a call if you have a project or you have a concept that you would like to talk to us about, and maybe we can help design or refer you to someone who has those capability if we're not capable of doing it. But for the most part, we do from the site work to the electrical, the plumbing, the special finishes, anything that takes to put together a building, the heating, the air conditioning. But we are very capable. We've been in business since 1985, approximately 31 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
That's a very long time.
Yeah, so we're tried and proven, and we've been around the block, and but we're able to. We're glad to be centrally located here in Fresno and Central California.
Well, if you have that special project, and you think that you can use Mark's services, please feel free to give him a call. And like I said, his number will appear on the screen. We're going to take time right now. We're going to go back to a commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump. We're going to also talk a little bit more with my new friend here, Mark,
All right.
about his other projects, and we should be back in, say, 2 and 2. I'm back. I'm glad you saw the Ronald Reagan video. We're going to go now to a fairly current Donald Trump video. I want you to see the comparison between these two great men. Like I said, I like to refer to the GOP party as the party of Lincoln, Reagan, and Trump. So we're going to, right now, go to the Donald Trump video.
Today marks my first State of the Union address to you.
What a crowd. Look at them piling in. Well, look at them. I want to thank everybody. You know, I worked in Cincinnati, Ohio. I had a job with my father. It came and it was very successful, very, very early in my career. It gave me a lot of confidence. And if I didn't have that confidence, who knew? Maybe I wouldn't be here with you tonight, believe me.
My America First energy plan will do for American people what Hillary Clinton will never do. She will never be able to do this, and I'm not just talking about this industry. She will never create real jobs and real wage growth. She can't do it. She doesn't know how to do it. Her husband signed NAFTA, one of the worst jobs, one of the worst things ever signed in the history of our country for economic development. They don't know how to do it, and I think actually they don't even want to do it. According to the Institute for Energy Research, lifting the restrictions on American energy will create a flood of new jobs. Almost a $700 billion increase. Think of that. A $700 billion increase in economic output over the next 30 years. More than a $30 billion increase in annual wages over the next 7 years. Some of the people that are my biggest supporters, they haven't had a real wage increase in 18 years, okay? 18 years.
I wanted to talk to you about a few things, and then, as you know, we had another suicide bombing, Istanbul, Turkey, many, many people killed, many, many people injured. Folks, there's something going on that's really, really bad. All right? It's bad. And we better get smart, and we better get tough, or we're not going to have much of a country left, okay? It's bad. Terrible. So anyway, so I checked this out. The labor force in Ohio today is smaller than it was in the year 2000, and the number of unemployed people is larger. That's not so great. Federal government. Ohio has lost 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs since Bill Clinton signed an agreement to put China into the World Trade Organization. Not good. He also signed NAFTA, which was a total disaster, right? NAFTA has done more to destroy your community than any other single act. It was signed by Bill Clinton, and I assume Hillary was there watching over him, right? Somewhere pretty close. 1 in 4 children in Ohio is living in poverty, okay? Living in poverty. Many people in Ohio have been severely victimized by illegal immigrants. You know that, right? Well, we're going to build a wall. Don't worry. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. Oh, it's going to go up. It's going to go up so fast. It's going to be as beautiful as a wall can be. It's going to be a big wall. It's going to be a wall that works. It's going to be a wall that works. See the height of that ceiling? We may top it by a little bit. That is a pretty high ceiling. Once they get up there, they're not going to want to come down. That I can do.
We will become and stay totally independent of any need to import energy from the OPEC cartel or any nations hostile to our interest. Anybody hostile to our interest, believe me, we don't deal with them. We'll handle them just fine. Just fine. And by the way, there are plenty of them out there that are hostile to our interests. At the same time, we'll work with our Gulf allies to develop a positive energy relationship as part of our anti-terrorism strategy. We'll work with them because we have to knock out terrorism. And by the way, we have to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS.
Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Now, when you hear the term trade expansion or Trade Expansion Act, not expansion for us. It's expansion for these other countries that have taken advantage. Because when I come here, I go throughout Ohio, I go throughout Pennsylvania, I go throughout New York State, I go all throughout New England. There's no expansion. We're getting the hell beat out of us. And it's going to stop. And we're going to bring our jobs back to this country. We're going to make product again. We're going to lift our wages. I said to everybody, because I played very little golf over the last year, believe me, very little, unlike our president who's playing like a PGA Tour schedule. I think he plays more golf than the players on the PGA Tour. Okay.
Keep in mind, shale energy production could add 2 million jobs in 7 years. Yet, while Hillary Clinton doesn't want American energy, she is strongly in favor of foreign energy. Here's what she told China as Secretary of State. American exports and Chinese experts will work to develop China's natural gas resources. Working with China. What about working with us? Everyone's working with China. They don't work with us. We're going to work with us, and we'll worry about China later, folks, okay?
In Lake County, an illegal immigrant was indicted on 16 counts, including murder and attempted rape. That illegal immigrant had been previously released through Obama's non-enforcement policies. Went on a rampage. Went on a rampage, right? From 2013 to 2014, the number of drug-related overdose deaths in Ohio increased.
Don't forget, if you're watching this show today, remember that it's live. If you watch it any other time, it's not live, so you can't call in. But feel free to call in. The number's on the screen. If you'd like to talk to Mr. Carson, if you'd like to talk to me, this is your voice. The name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And we hope that your voice gets heard today. We hope that this is a vehicle for your voice to get heard. Now, I was talking to Mr. Carson here on the break, and he's pretty interesting. I want you to tell us about some of your special interests. He has worked with some great youth organizations. Mr. Carson?
Well, currently I'm involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central California, where we're mentoring troubled youth. That I'm paired with a young man. His name's Anthony, but Anthony and I, we just celebrated our 8th year together as a match.
How old is he? How old is he?
Anthony is 16, and he is a very good young man. You know, he has his challenges, but a very worthwhile organization that we take time to bring those along. Or I'm real concerned about our young men, and that need a man in their life to be able to show them how to be a.
Thank goodness we have people like you.
Yeah,
who do this.
So that's one of my interests that I support and is very passionate to me, is mentoring my little is what he's called. He's taller than me now, but he's no longer little anymore.
How did you happen to come about this with this young man? Was that?
I was introduced by a friend who was doing some mentoring in a high school program or in the high school, and she was mentoring young ladies, and she passed away suddenly, and so I kind of took up that sparked my interest to do the same or to carry on in honor of her, but I've came to be very passionate about doing this kind of thing, or taking time to stay engaged or with this young man, at least this one, or as many as I can. I have several.
Oh, you do?
Several people that I call my own,
Mm-hmm.
but it's primarily he's my little through this one organization.
Can you tell us some of the things that I know you interact with this young man, but what are some of the things that the two of you do?
Well, we last week we went a week or so ago. We went fishing. We'll take time, or we'll just go out and just have a bite to eat, and we just take time and go over some of the things he's concerned about, or some of the things that's on his mind. We'll just sit down and have a good talk, and or we'll go and he's a videoer, but we play, either I'll watch him play video games, or I'll try to keep up with him and do the same, or we'll, he does, he does the latest video games, but I'll play Wii with him, but.
Well, you're ahead of me because I don't play any at all. Well, tell me, does he have any sports interests?
Oh yeah. Well, he's quite a golfer.
Oh, he is.
His golf coach was one of the first black golf coaches in America that lived here in Fresno. He's passed away, but he is quite a golfer, and I just want to. I encourage him to golf and take him to he and I will just I'll take him to the golf range and just let him hit a bucket of balls, you know, and I'll just sit and critique him or tell him what he's kind of, he needs to shank it or he's, you know, pulling or, but
This must be really satisfying to you to take a young man at 8 years old and watch him grow and prosper.
it is satisfying. I get satisfaction out of it, and but I, you know, I feel I get a blessing by blessing him, you know, or trying
That's
to.
kind of the way it works,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it really is. So, you know, he's really just a good young man. Like I said, he you know, sometime we may not agree, but we talk, and you know, we agree to disagree sometime, but then we always, I know he cares for me and I care for him.
Oh, that's
You know,
wonderful.
yeah. So
Must be great for him having a positive influence in his life. Are his parents in the picture?
yes, they are as much as possible, and I just encourage him to stay in school, continue to get his education, continue his education, study hard, and work hard at everything he does. That's our main objective right now is, you know, just to stay in school, stay focused, don't look to the left or right, you know, but yet and still keep.
Great advice.
Yeah.
This young man is very fortunate to have
Yeah.
you in his life. Can you tell us about any of the other ones that you've
Well, they kind of claim me as family. You know, their pop, you know, with Papa Mark, but
That's what you're known as?
well, they call me. Someone call
I
me.
think that's great.
Yeah, but it's good to be accepted, you know,
Yes.
in that and held in that regard.
Absolutely.
You know, and I value that. You know, I been quite engaged in my church and as to all the activities around that and the services and so forth. So I keep pretty busy. Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, what church do you attend?
Well, I attend Temple of Praise Seventh-day Adventist Church here in
wow.
Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Fresno, yes, and we're a plant of the West Side Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Well, now, does this young man attend church with you on occasion?
He has, and he does as much as possible. I'm like the duty driver. You know, I go and I get them, and I try to bring as many as who will come. You know.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Obviously you've had a great influence of the young people in this city, and that's wonderful. We need more.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we're going to go back to a commercial now, and we'll be back with my guest, Mark, in 2 and 2. I'm back. We're going to talk to my friend Mark here in a bit, but before we do that, I'd like to go to a Hillary Clinton video, and then I'll comment on that after you watch this. But I'd like for you to take a look at this Hillary Clinton video.
It's no secret that we're going up against some pretty powerful forces that will do and spend whatever it takes to advance a very different vision for America. I am running for President of the United States.
The people want to know Hillary. The Hillary that I knew back here in Arkansas. When she was in the Benghazi hearings, when she said, "What difference does it make? They're dead."
What difference at this point does it make?
That's the Hillary I know.
We came, We saw he died.
Hi, Secretary Clinton. Would you sign this for me?
Sure. What's your name?
If you can make it out to Christopher Stevens. I think you knew him.
Yeah, I'm not going to make it out to Chris Stevens.
What difference does it make?
Here it goes. Here. Yep.
Senator Clinton has extraordinary ability to obfuscate, refuse to answer questions, avoid confrontations, and up until now has been given a pass on it.
A story in the New York Times talking about why Senator Clinton voted this way, because I think some people were surprised by it. And her advisor said that she voted yes because she was moving from primary mode to general election mode. Primary mode versus general election mode? How about tell the truth mode? How about we say the same thing in the primary that we say in the general election?
We know that Hillary's an insecure person. Secure people don't lie. They don't lie inveterately the way she does.
Hillary Clinton points to her time in the White House as a large part of her qualification for the job as president. But most of the news media has conveniently forgotten that her time as First Lady was mired in controversy.
The core of the controversy is how truthful Mrs. Clinton has been in answering questions, sometimes under oath, about Whitewater and other matters.
She was the First Lady to come under criminal investigation. In both Little Rock and Washington, D.C., she was plagued by numerous scandals.
I finally parted company with Hillary Clinton when I saw how she was using private detectives to investigate the women who were linked to her husband. Not to change him, not to reform him, not to make him a better person, but to cow the women into silence so that he could get elected president. I do not want that woman controlling the IRS or the DEA or the NSA or the FBI or the CIA. Not in a democracy, I don't.
One thing about Hillary, Bill was just a good timing guy. But Hillary, she's an animal. Hillary is the one that I promise you, she pulls the strings. She pulled them in Arkansas. She pulled them in the White House when she was there as the First Lady. And my God, if she gets to be president.
I represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street.
Yes, I'm back. I wanted you to see that video. There's been a lot of controversy, and continues to be a lot of controversy about Hillary Clinton. We talked a couple of weeks ago on my show about the fact that she stood up after the awful ordeal down in Orlando and spoke about women's rights. And you just saw this Clinton Foundation has received millions and now billions of dollars, and we know most of it, of course, is special interests. But how do you justify standing up and talking about gay rights or women's rights, for that matter, and yet you're taking money, special interest money, from countries who are very degrading to women? You know, it's a male-oriented society. They treat women as second-class citizens, and in all of these countries, they execute you for being gay. So to me, that is the epitome of hypocrisy. I'm going to turn now and talk to my buddy here, Mark, again about, he's going to tell us about his certifications.
All right. Well, once again, my company name is RMC Enterprises Incorporated. We're a licensed and bonded general construction firm here in Fresno, in the state of California. We are certified with the state as a small emerging business, and also we have certification with the federal government and with the through the Department of Public Utilities, doing work for communication companies and basically whatever, being able to work on those type of with those type of entities to do their public works projects or their facilities. So we do all phases of construction, from, like I said, from maintenance construction to designing, building, and build-outs, renovations.
Explain to me about build-outs. I'm not sure if I know what that is.
Well, say you have a shell, or you own a building. You may have a part of it that may be leased out or occupied by another tenant, and you want to develop. You have a tenant that has an interest in your building, and you're wanting to accommodate their facility to meet their needs for whether it be whatever type of either manufacturing, office, or clerical.
I see.
So to be able to construct those specifications, to be able to whatever specifications you might have, to be able to build them to that, to be able to meet your needs for your tenant, or for your the end user, or your client. So, like I said, it can be depending on what your needs are. We're able to provide you with those different types of facilities that is.
So if you do have a need, whether Mark can fill it or not, if you certainly call and talk to him, he'll tell you if he can do the project.
Yes, certainly. Yes.
I want to thank you very much for coming on the show.
All right, very good.
I hope that we have become a vehicle. I hope that you get a lot of calls. I
All right,
really do.
very good.
And apparently you're already successful. It's always nice to have someone who's successful, and especially someone who's doing so much for the youth of this city. We need people like you. We do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come onto your program today, and it's been my pleasure.
You're most welcome. I generally end my show with a little thing called a little something to think about. And I always like to say that the best way to do something great for yourself is to start by doing something great for someone else. I totally believe that. So hopefully this week we'll go out and do a little something, like we talked about before. Maybe it's like Mark. He is a prime example of this. Do something for a youth. Do something for an elderly person. Make someone feel better than they already feel. And you might be in a dentist office, and there's someone there, and they're sitting there. They're maybe not reading a newspaper. Maybe they're just, that they're sad, So give them a helping hand. So until we joyously meet next Thursday, heaven's blessings.
CentralValleyTalk.com